Howdy. Every year, families move up here north of Houston. Spring, Woodlands, Tomball, Magnolia, Conroe, Montgomery, and every year I watch the same thing happen. They run the numbers on the mortgage calculator, they get pre-approved, they think they know their monthly payment, and then about 3 months in, the real number shows up. The mud tax, the flood insurance, the septic system that needs servicing, a property tax bill that climbs on them every 2 years, an HOA assessment buried somewhere in the fine print, a storm deductible, and homeowners insurance that runs about 61% over the national average. None of that is on the listing, and none of it is in that pre-approval letter. And if you're coming from out of state, there's really nobody in your life who would even know to warn you. Now, most agents are going to walk you through the house. I'm going to walk you through the paperwork because that's where the money actually hides. I'm Cari Jo, and I have helped hundreds of families get through these exact situations. And today, I'm going to walk you through all 7 of them before you sign anything. 7 costs, what each one actually runs you in real estate dollars, and exactly what you do about it before you ever write an offer. By the end of this, you're going to know your real monthly payment, not the pretty little number on Zillow. Let's start with the MUD, because if you're not from around here, I can almost promise you have no idea what it is. MUD stands for Municipal Utility District, and the way it works is when a builder puts up a brand new subdivision outside of the city limits, there's no city water, there's no city sewer, no drainage, none of it. So the state lets them form this MUD, which is really just a little mini government. That MUD borrows money and sells bonds. Then it puts in all the roads, the water lines, the storm drains, and then you, the homeowner, you pay all that money back every year through that extra tax that rides along your property tax bill. That MUD tax is not in your purchase price. It's not in your pre-approval. It sits on its own line. In the Woodlands, older MUDs have mostly paid their bonds off. So MUD number 1 is down around 6.5 cents per hundred of assessed value right now. But some of the newer ones, for example, MUD 39, they're up to about 24 cents on that same assessed value. So a $450,000 house, the difference is about $293 a year and $1,080 a year for the same house price. And what people really miss is the homestead exemption does not bring that MUD line down. It lowers your school tax, but the MUD just sits right there on top of it. Let me give you an example because this is a call that I got. I had somebody reach out to me. He wasn't even a client, but he called the chat and talked about his taxes and if he should protest. He bought a newer home in a spring development with cash, and he was confused because he said his tax bill was a lot lower than he had expected and he was disgusted with. We come to find out he hadn't received his MUD bill yet. So that's why his taxes look so low compared to what he had planned for. Fortunately, he did plan for it and he got that MUD tax bill later, and now he knows exactly what he needs to pay every year. If you have a home loan, you're more than likely escrowing that tax bill. Basically, your lender is going to go ahead and they're going to pay the MUD. They're going to pay all the taxes for you on your behalf. But if you haven't paid enough throughout the year, they will send you another bill to get your escrow right back up there. And so sometimes that can sneak up on you too if you didn't prepare or your lender didn't prepare with the right numbers when you closed. So you always want to make sure that when you sit down at a closing, you have them calculating your taxes correctly so you won't be hit with a surprise bill at the end of the year when taxes are due. Okay, number 2. Flood insurance. In most of the country, this is optional. Out here, in a lot of the north of Houston areas, it's required. And even where it isn't required, it can be the smartest money you spend. We sit in a watershed. You've got Spring Creek, Cypress Creek, and the San Jacinto, and all of that water has to go somewhere when it rains. And here it rains all the time. A flood policy around spring runs you somewhere around $500 to $800 a year through the NFIP. But there's something going on right now you need to know about, and it's a big deal. Harris County is in the middle of a giant FEMA flood map update, the first real overhaul in almost 20 years. The 100-year floodplain is expected to grow by about a third, and that pulls something like 170,000 properties, around $50 billion worth of real estate, into a high-risk zone. So if your address gets reclassified, your premium moves, and your lender can turn right around and require coverage you've never even planned for. And let me tell you why just knowing matters so much. I had somebody call me a while back. They weren't my client. They wanted me to come list their house, and I do my homework before I take a listing. So I'm digging around, and it turns out their home is sitting in a flood zone. They're flabbergasted. They're going on about, how am I in a flood zone? I've never flooded. Nobody told me this when I bought the place. And I had to walk them all the way through it. Flood zones get redrawn. Not super often, but they do move. And their house had landed in what was called the 500-year zone. And that changes how a buyer looks at it. It can change the value. It's meant to really, it just should be that now you need to cover your home with flood insurance. It's not required at the 500, but you really should have it. So you want to know your flood status before you fall in love with the house, not after you're already in it. I'm going to do a whole separate video on flood zones in one of these days because there's a lot there. But for right now, just know where you stand. So before you write an offer, go pull the property up on the FEMA map. You can look it up at msc.fema.gov, and then go check the Harris County Flood Education Mapping Tool for those proposed lines. If that house is about to get reclassified, you want to build that into your numbers right now. Flood is the one that catches most out-of-state folks. This next one, it catches people coming in from somewhere else in Texas, because if you're coming from Dallas or Austin, you probably never had to mess with it. Number 3, septic. Not every home up here is on a city sewer. Once you get out towards Magnolia, parts of Tomball, outer edges of Montgomery County, a lot of these homes are on septic systems, which just means that your wastewater gets handled right there on your own property, in a tank, in your yard. And that system needs some upkeep. A conventional septic gets pumped every 3 to 5 years, call it about $250 a pump. That's really nothing. But a lot of our soil out here is heavy clay, and the clay you often need that they call aerobic systems, and those have to be inspected by a licensed provider 3 times a year, so the service contract can run you about $400 to $600 a year. And if one ever fails and you have to replace the whole thing, you're looking at anywhere between $7,000 all the way up to $26,000, depending on the type of soil. And this is one that gets my out-of-state folks every single time. I actually have a septic system at my own home, so I know it inside and out, and I'll be walking somebody through a property and they'll point out in the yard and they'll go, "Cari Jo, what is that big green cap thing right over there?" And I have to tell them, "Oh, that's your septic." And they just look at me with these big eyes like, I have my own sewer now that I've got to take care of? And I go, "Yep." And you see those sprinkler heads right over there? Those are keeping your nice grass all pretty and green. That's the system too. And it grosses a few people out, I'll be honest with you. But it's a trade-off. If you want the acreage and there's no city sewer running out that far, well, septic is how you get the land and still have your indoor plumbing. So when you're looking at a house way out in the sticks, just ask straight out, is it on city sewer or is it on septic? And if it's on septic, what kind? Then go pull the permits from Montgomery County Environmental Health and ask for the last pump date from the service records, and put that yearly maintenance into your budget before you make an offer. Septic does catch people from out of state, but this one catches everybody, and it still manages to surprise people. Number 4, the property tax math. Now, Texas has no state income tax. You probably already know that. That's likely why you're moving here. But what you get instead is a property tax system that works real different from wherever you're coming from. In Montgomery County, the effective rate runs somewhere around 1.5% to almost a little over 3%, depending on your school district and whether you're sitting in a mud. So on a $450,000 home, that's roughly $8,000 to $12,000 a year just in taxes. Texas reappraises every single year. The appraisal district looks at it again, and if the market moved up, your assessed value goes up right along with it. Now, the homestead exemption helps. You've got $100,000 general exemption, plus $140,000 for school exemption coming up in 2026. But you have got to actually file for it. It is not automatic. You close in October and forget to do it, and you could wait until the next tax year to see it. So, 2 things here. File the homestead. You don't have to wait. As soon as you get your driver's license back, file it. Go to mcad-tex.org and just knock it out online while you're thinking about it. And when you're figuring out your monthly, do not trust the tax numbers sitting on the listing. Pull the actual combined rate for the address from the Montgomery County Tax Office. Your school district, your county, Lone Star College, the hospital district, the mud, all of it stacked together. That's your real number. These next 2, they only catch you if you actually sit down and read the paperwork. And most people, they don't. Number 5, HOAs. And I know, most of the master plan communities out here have one, and the dues themselves run anywhere from $100 to $2,500 plus a year, depending on the community. That's just part, but that one's not the surprise. The surprise is sitting in the governing documents. So there are special assessments. An HOA can vote on these special assessments for big projects, such as maybe a new pool, redoing all the fencing, fixing drainage, and you owe your share, whether you voted for it or not. I've seen those land at $1,500 to $3,000 in a single year, on top of your regular dues. And then you've got the deed restrictions, which is the rules on your front door color, whether you can park a truck in your driveway, what kind of fence you're allowed to put up. And if you're coming from a state where HOAs are kind of rare, I'm telling you, this is a real culture shock. So HOAs in Texas, they've got more teeth than people expect. I see this all the time. I had a buyer come to me, great guy, drives a semi for a living. He asked me, Cari Jo, I want to buy a house, but I've got to be able to bring my truck home and park it when I'm there. I'm not out on a long haul, so I've got my semi. So right then, that became the whole search. I told him, listen, we're going to have to find you an unrestricted piece of property because there's not an HOA in this area that's going to let you park a semi truck out in your front yard. And that's the thing I really want you to hear is that when you sit down with your agent, don't just tell them I've got 2 kids and a dog. Tell them what you actually do. I drive a truck. My wife wants a salon run out of her house. We want this next gen because she's going to be washing hair. Well, because all of that runs straight into deed restrictions, and you don't want to find that out after you close. You want to know ahead of time. So before you close, get the resale certificate, get the last 12 months of your board minutes, get a reserve study, because if that reserve fund is sitting low, I promise you a special assessment is coming. And read the deed restrictions, all of them. I would not let my family sign into a community without reading them. So that's your fine print cost. These last 2 are weather. And down here, weather is not optional. Number 6, hail and storm damage. North Houston gets hail. Not every year, but often enough that your roof is basically on the clock. And when it finally needs replacing, your insurance covers it, minus your deductible. But here in Texas, that wind and hail deductible is usually 1 to 2% of your insured value. So on a $450,000 home, that's $4,500 or $9,000 coming right out of your own pocket before the insurance company pays a dime. Once the roof is past about 15 years, most of the big carriers quit paying replacement costs and they switch over to what they consider actual cash value, which just means they depreciate the roof. So you might only get a check for about $8,000 on a $15,000 job, and you're covering the rest right out of your own pocket. So when you're looking at a house, ask how old that roof is, ask to see the last inspection, get your own inspection, and when you're picking up your policy, look really hard at the wind and hail deductibles. One more thing worth knowing is that Class 4 impact resistant shingles, they cost a bit more upfront if you're gonna replace a roof, but they can knock as much as about 30% off your premium. Number 7, homeowners insurance. Texas homeowners pay an average of about $38.99 a year to insure a home. That's 61% over the national average. So if you're coming in from Ohio, Colorado, Michigan, your insurance bill is about to roughly double on you. And it's been climbing. The average Texas premium jumped more than 55% between 2019 and 2024. And the reason? Weather. The hurricanes, the floods, the tornadoes, the hail. Insurers are replacing all that risk and passing it right on to the homeowner. And that's not a one-time bump either. They expect it to keep going up. This is the one that I watch land on people's faces the most. My out-of-state families come in, they're looking at houses and they're so excited and they keep saying, Cari Jo, the homes here are so cheap. And then we get past the property tax conversation and we get into insurance. And their whole face just sinks when they realize the premium is close to double what they were paying back home. And I tell them straight, listen, we've got hurricanes, we've got rain, we've got flooding, we've got all of it down here. The insurance is not the thing you get to skip, and it's not a thing that you go figure out after you're already under contract. Then there's older homes. As charming as they are expensive to insure. The older the roof, the older the pipes, the worse the quote gets. I've had families fall in love with the beautiful older house, and then the insurance quote comes back close to $6,000 because it's got a 45-year-old roof and the old galvanized plumbing, and all of a sudden that cheaper old house is not the deal it looked like on paper. So make sure to get your quotes before you make any offers, not after. 3 different carriers is preferred. The real address, real quotes, not just a guesstimate. And then add the number into your monthly, because if insurance swings $200 or $300 a month, that really does change which house you can actually afford. And ask about bundling your auto, raising your standard deductibles, that Class 4 shingle discount. You can stack all of those 3 together. You can save about 15 to 25%. The save, okay, so those are the 7. Let me give you a quick version and the one you can actually take with you. Number 1, look up the MUD rate before you make an offer. Number 2, pull the FEMA flood map for the address and check those new proposed lines. 3, find out if it's city sewer or septic and budget for it. 4, file your homestead exemption as soon as possible. 5, read the HOA resale certificate, the reserve study, and the deed restrictions. 6, get the roof's age, get it inspected, check on that wind and hail deductible. And 7, get real insurance quotes from 3 carriers before you ever write the offer. You do those 7 things and you are going to walk in knowing you're actual monthly payment before you sign anything. No surprise at closing, no surprise 3 months down the road. So that's the mud tax, the flood insurance, the septic, the property tax map, the HOA fine print, the storm deductibles, and the homeowner's insurance. Those 7 little lines are the whole difference between a family that's ready for this and a family that's scrambling come month 3. And if you want to just sit down and talk through the specifics or a specific house or a specific neighborhood, you can book a call at the same link. No pressure. Just a real conversation. If you're really trying to figure out which of these north of Houston suburbs actually fits your family, that's the video coming up on your screen right now. Spring, Woodlands, and Tomball, side by side with the commute math and the price math right there. Go on and click it.